What up, everyone? DJ Anubis.
And DJ Neko.
Here with
And
you on the
DJ
Metal Town
Media
Radio.
Glitch.
Yeah, Media Glitch. Didn't even get a chance to introduce me. He just wants to jump
He's
in.
jumping
He's like,
right
I'm
in.
here. I am here.
This is our special guest, DJ Media Glitch.
DJ Media Glitch. Joel, how are you doing, sir? Thank you so much for taking the time out to sit with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. You know, we've known each other for a bit now.
Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
I think it's been at least 2-3 years easily. Yeah.
I'm going to say, I think it really was like with so many people that I've met online. Fat Samurai Guy, we're doing all those verses and different shows. And that's kind of how you meet all these people. And I know that we had a lot of fun with you on there and kind of built a rapport and friendship through that. So I've been keeping track of you, your movies, and you know, I did do I'll talk a little bit later, the movie Beautiful Prison, which is amazing. I did a little review on that.
Yes, you did.
You enlightened me to some of your musical exploits, so we'll talk a little bit that in this interview as well. But I was curious, just like kind of kicking everything off. So of all your many talents, directing, gaming, game reviews, music, what part of that was your first part of your career? So what were you starting with when you first started doing all this?
When I first started, it was definitely music.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting because that was never the part of the plan. I didn't grow up going,
Yeah.
I wanted to be a rock star or play stadiums, which is the level that I got to eventually. But that was my older brother's dream. And my older brother was more or less like my dad, you know, because my dad was an alcoholic and he didn't really, you know, he dropped the ball, you know, put it nicely. Yeah. And so my older brother did all that for me and taught me stuff. He actually taught me how to play guitar, but that was his dream, you know, and he was out in Jersey and, you know, because all, you know, Bon Jovi was coming out back then, you know, Jersey was kind of a spot that people were looking at. And he sadly was killed in a car accident.
Oh man!
Oh no!
So it hit me pretty hard, and I was like, you know what? His dream is going to become my dream.
Yeah.
And that's how it started. And I started to. I actually I remember I would go into a music shop, not knowing anything. I'm like, that amp looks big. That bass looks awesome. Let's do this. And then I put up, I was working with this one guy and he would always just, you know, sing whatever on the radio. I'm like, all right, you got somewhat of a voice. Let's do this, you know? And it just like, and then, it was just, I have videotapes and it's so embarrassing. VHS tapes of us in downstairs in a basement, just me and him. And we're just, you know, I'm plucking and he's singing. And then I was like, you know, this would sound really cool if we had some drums. You know, and then we add a drummer, and then you know, we were playing clubs and stuff like that. So I think a lot of that, you know, and the two kind of go hand in hand because, like my filmmaking, because I do a lot of music videos, tons of music videos, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I noticed that in your IMDb you had like a lot of videos. Now, the one thing about that was, do these artists approach you to do this, or is this kind of something just falls in your lap and you just end up doing them?
Yeah, I mean, you know, some people have reached out to me, and then some, you know, after the fact, like I have videos where like, oh, hey, this is just a song that's on the radio, and I do a video, and now the band plays it in their concerts. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
They liked it so much, and then you come to Albuquerque. You know, that's happened to me where the whole band came to Albuquerque. They took me out. They're like, man, we saw your video. We love it. Can we use it? And I was like, yeah, whatever. You know, that's cool, you know? So that stuff's happened from time to time. But what's interesting is when I was young, for example, I would put on like Ride the Lightning, right? Metallica Ride the Lightning, or you know, Black Flag or something. And I would listen to it at night. And most of my night was I was just picturing what the like imagery with this music and what I would do. And I never realized one day I was going to end up doing that, you know, and that's still part of my process. So like if I get a song from a band, like, hey, what do you want to do with this? I will sit in a dark room and I put on headphones and I listen and I just like, okay, I see this, I see this, I see this. And I start to formulate it all. And then I start writing things down. And then someone comes in, storyboards everything, and then we go to shoot.
Now, out of curiosity, so when you envision this stuff, listening to the music, is it just certain types of music? Like, her and I, we know a lot of local bands and friends of ours that we've met over the course of the years. There's one particular band that's kind of new and up and coming. If they wanted to do a video, it would be something, if I could get them to check with you if you wanted to do it, is that something you'd be interested in? Because I don't know, you don't really touch metal too much, but is that something you'd be open to?
Yeah. Like, yeah, I mean, I'm down for whatever, like any band that likes my style, right? I have a certain style. So
Yeah, and I think that's cool because
Like
you
your
have a pretty
aesthetic,
cool
yeah.
aesthetic. Yeah. So I think that, like, I could easily say, hey, this guy I know, he's very good. He's done movies and he's done videos. Check it out. See if you like what he kind of does and see if maybe he might help you guys do a video if you wanted to.
just let them know I don't come cheap. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah. They probably have no money.
I think like a lot of that's what a lot of local people that have approached me, local bands and stuff. And it
Yeah.
depends. Like if I feel like, oh, this song has a message that, it's not just something, like thrown together. I'm like, oh, this band has potential. Then I will cut my rates and stuff or I have a vision. But if it's just like whatever, like that usually turns them away when they hear my, how much I charge or whatever,
Well, I mean,
it's
fair.
Charge for your
Yeah,
services.
it's all work. I mean, you got to get
work.
paid.
Exactly. You have experience. You're not going to charge.
And I'm sure they would respect that as much as anyone else because, obviously they make music, so they'd like to get paid to play, so it's all hand in hand.
Right.
So when you were playing, what exactly was your influence or what type of music did you play?
Oh my goodness. So, when you're first starting a band and stuff, you're pretty much playing bars and doing covers, right? And so like some of the like covers that we did would be like we would do Tool. We would do we would do oh gosh, hold on. Why is this blanking? She's got a date at midnight. With notes for Ratu. Who is that?
Typo Negative.
Typo Negative. Stuff like that. We would be playing. Nice. And then we would like total metal out songs like I Wear My Sunglasses at Night.
Oh, nice.
And just make it.
What was that? Was that Corey Hart?
Yeah, just make the most like our 80s. Some of the songs that we had like in our brains of the 80s. Before that was a thing, like now it's a thing, but back then it wasn't a thing. And so people would come and like, hey, play that, long before, that was a thing. It was kind of crazy,
That's actually pretty great because I used to, like when I was younger during that time, like it's so weird. This is like a weird side story, but
oh no.
So I like Gary Newman. Gary Newman, great artist, a lot of pop and also a little bit dark wave later in his career. He had that hit single Cars.
Oh yeah.
So I used to sit there. I used to sit there and say to myself, "Man, it'd be cool if a metal band actually did this cover." And sure enough, in '98, Fear Factory did one, and it sounded fantastic. Even got Gary to do guest vocals on it. So eventually, it happened. So it's kind of cool that you were doing stuff like that before it really became a thing. That's really cool.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones that we did. It was a lot of just songs that I really liked. And we just basically, broke them down and made it metal, before, it was a
That's
thing.
Awesome.
So.
Yeah, reverse engineer it and turn it into metal.
Well, I mean, my version of metal. You guys are like these hardcore metalheads.
We're not that hardcore.
Oh, we're pretty hardcore. We're hardcore.
You guys I mean, and I've heard a couple of your podcasts. I'm like, what was that a band? How do you even pronounce that? When you're metal, when the band that you're promoting or listening to, like most people can't even pronounce it or spell it out. Like it's like this.
Yeah, there's always the fun meme where there's fun memes where like because some of the band names on their artwork, you know, you can't even read what it says. They're kind of like, okay, that's a good band name. We just had no idea what it says. So
or like it looks like branches and dark trees in the moon.
So was this like one of those moments where you were playing like metal? Like, is this how you were looking when you were doing it? Like,
no, this is not. I'm not metal no more here. So these like I would
the grunge phase.
Oh yeah, that's your alternative phase.
No, yeah, all right. That's when I cut off the hair, and I was like, you know, that's when I sold out. Yeah, basically. You know? That's the Black album. You know,
the Black album. Yeah,
everything after that. No, but like, so no, because so I go from like playing bars and everything, and you know, a lot of drugs, a lot of craziness. And you know, and I actually ended up and some people know about if you've watched my Media Glitch show, which I'm sure we'll get into. I have a series called Road to Recovery, which is my drug addiction and getting past that. And
cool.
And then so when I did get past it and I gave my life to the Lord, I started to play different types of music. And so a lot of those, like that picture there, you know, coffee shops, but like it's interesting because once I gave my life to God, then my music really took off, and I was playing stadiums and coffee shops. Like I would play coffee shops, but in different countries.
Oh wow!
You know what I mean? So some are in France and Italy and stuff like
that.
Now,
were you married at this time, or are you just still single and just kind of doing your thing?
I wasn't married. In fact, my wife, Michelle. I met her 6 years
very beautiful
prior.
lady, by the way. Very beautiful.
Yeah, way out of my league. Like you look at that picture and you're like, wait, that's his wife?
So is this one. This one is too. She's out of my league too.
Yeah, like we both married up, right? So like,
yeah.
But she went when we did get married, I remember her right around the time we were about to get married, she went to one of my last shows, which is at the La Arena de Monterrey, which is one of the biggest stadiums in Mexico. And once I got married, I said, I didn't want to tour no more. I didn't want to live in hotels. I didn't want to be away from her. That just wasn't. And it's like all things in my life. I'm just like, I don't know how I get here. You know, it's like, you know, how am I?
It's all about the journey, they say.
And it's all like, hey, I get to do that. Like, that's cool. But you know, if it goes away, like, whatever. Like I got to do it. Like, so when I gave up playing stadiums, when I gave up the music stuff, which it would come back later. Like, look at all those people, man.
I'm saying, like, I saw this and I'm like, where is this? And what was this? What show?
That's when Joel was playing with the Foo Fighters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Actually, I am playing guitar there, which is crazy, but that's La Plaza de Torres in Tijuana, Mexico. Right.
Oh wow.
And so like
that's really
just like
cool.
one little piece. It goes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like you can just tell. It's like, was it all around you guys, or just like pretty much?
It's all around. So it's like,
wow.
And back then, you know, we didn't have iPhones. We didn't have that. You know that cool little mode where you can go like this and capture all that. How cool would that have been back then? Here, you just you did
around.
And you hope that like you got it, you don't know, until it was developed. You know?
Unless you got that random guy with like the old VHS camera with the side piece that he can
he's carrying around like a backpack with a big light.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, those were like some crazy times and crazy days, and you know, traveling not just, I mean, all over the place, and not knowing, you don't know what day it is. You just know that you got to play tonight. That's it, you know.
So how did you find out meeting your wife? How did you come across her?
So we met. So after I gave my life to God and then I got free from drugs, I actually went to seminary to learn about the Bible because I knew nothing. In fact, I barely knew how to read back then. I was very uneducated. Most of my time in school was just dealing drugs, you know, and making money and trying to survive. So like when I went there, it was likely my second day being there, I met her. And that was it. That was in the year 2000. So we're working on 23 years now.
Good job, brother.
My wife and I.
Yeah.
And I was still a mess, still just trying to figure things out, and she loved me for who I was, man.
And that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what she does with me. Is like she accept me. And I was like, I'm yours. I'm your slave.
So I'm streaming this. I'm answering people's.
Oh,
Okay, cool.
yeah, go ahead.
Questions.
Anything they want to say?
But what I'm going to do is I want to right now, here's some links, everyone who's watching, so you can find these guys. Their podcast.
Yep,
if you like metal, you'll love these guys.
Cool people. That's us. We're the cool people. Some people say I look like Velma from Scooby-Doo. So if you think that is cool, that is what I am. It was really interesting when you were saying, like, you had struggled through high school with, education and literacy, and you went straight to the Bible, which is one of the most difficult things to read, especially like, because
especially how it's written.
Yes, especially because I grew up and I went all through, like, Catholic school and stuff, and I took Latin. So everything that you learn as you're trying to read it, but there were classes like to break it down, and it's not an easy thing to just digest. So how was that for you? Like, that's your next step, like going through seminary and really learning the Bible. Like, I grew up, my mom's family is Italian, so it's very, like, Catholicism is really, really heavy in the family. So, like, you get put into, Catholic school immediately. How was that for you with such a big change in your life?
It was wild, right? Because well, first of all, just people, like, the different culture, as far as, like, here I come, coming from this, like, crazy metal band rock style. If I took off my shirts, all of these, like, cuts all over my, from the paranoid schizophrenia. They never seen no one like me when I walked in there, and it was very judgmental. That's why, like, when I get mad when people are religious. I get mad when people are judgmental. I don't want nothing to do with you. If that's you and you're judging people, that I don't get out of my face, right? And I'm there, I'm cussing like a sailor. They don't know what to do with me. I'm still smoking cigarettes. They're like, you can't smoke here. I'm like, what the you mean I can't smoke? And I'm just like, and people are getting on my nerves.
He's doing his own comedy show.
Yeah. People are getting on my nerves. And I'm just like, dude, I'm just like, I'm at seminary. I'm looking people right in the eye and I'm like, I will break your face right now. Like, test me. Go ahead. Like, so they didn't know what to do with me, right?
Right.
They didn't know what to do with me. And then there was the whole, like, growing up and not having, my parents were drug addicts and never learning to read and stuff. So when I got to the Bible stuff, it was like, okay, I think it took the school a couple of weeks where they realized, okay, this kid doesn't know how to read very well, right? So I got some help and I began to read. Took me 6 months just to get through the book of Matthew for the first time. And that was not, and I'm not even kidding you. I would wake up, I'd go to school, we'd get out at noon, and from noon till I go to bed, all I did was read. And I read every single day. And all these kids, they want to go out, they want to hang out, they want to go to the mall and do it, whatever. I was like, man, I ain't got time for this. I got to figure this thing out. And I just committed it. And that's what I do. I just, it seems crazy that I went from, like, because I'm dyslexic. So I got that going and not learning to read till I was like 20 something. And now I write scripts and stuff for a living. It's bananas.
That's so awesome
when you think about it.
But that's an amazing achievement. I mean, overcoming obstacles alone is amazing for anyone. But when you realize what you've gone through and overcoming your obstacles, it's beyond just, like, you should really be proud of yourself is what I'm trying to say. Like, you've worked hard. You've really learned a lot about many things, and I have a cat that's trying to break into my closet, so she's gonna go over here.
And you know,
So
and I always give
go
that
ahead.
that credit to God. It's nothing I could have done on my own. So
Okay, cool.
And that's exactly what you found when you needed it.
Yeah.
right, exactly.
So what's your next step from there? Because obviously you got married, you weren't doing the music thing anymore, basically, as far as touring.
Hmm.
Was the next thing directing, or did you go into the gaming world? Which one came first there?
Okay, so gaming has
It's more
always been
complicated,
there my whole life.
right?
So before I like it's almost like I created this persona
Mhm.
back in the day. Let me explain. So when I was young, because I was born with a cleft lip, right? And
Oh, I didn't know that. You never shared
yeah,
that.
yeah. So I have this cleft lip, and when I was young, kids are just cruel, right?
Kids are mean
Yep.
at times,
So
Yep.
yes.
I got called every name. I got ridiculed. I hardly had any friends. And when the Nintendo came out, it became my best friend. You know what I mean? It became my only friend in some instances. I was incredibly like bullied all the time. And so I would hate school. That's another reason why I didn't learn. And I would just go home and I'd want to play the games, want to play video games. Because my parents were doing their drugs and they're drinking and I had no friends, but my Nintendo never let me down. My Nintendo was always there. And if my Nintendo did let me down, all I had to do was blow on the cartridge and boom, we're back running, right? And so and then I realized I became good at that. I became really
Mhm.
good at playing video games. And so video games had always been a part of my life. Now, once I did, take that big turn in my life and went to seminary and all that, I actually put down the gaming controller for about 6 or 7 years, you know? And so after I graduated from seminary, I went and lived with the Otomi Indians for
Oh wow.
a couple of years, like Otomi Indians, the Nahuatls, down in the like mountains of Mexico, on and off. I wasn't in there the whole time, but I would go there and I lived in the mountains, no running water sometimes, no electricity sometimes. And I was just telling people about God and how they could have a relationship and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So, and then that's when the music came about. I'm trying to think, was that the question? Because I actually, okay.
You came back to music?
Yeah. And then I came back to music, right? And then when I got married, I left the music, right? So now I'm just basically, I'm teaching, I'm working at a church, preaching. And then I started to watch a show that I really dug. There were two shows. The first one was called Spaced. Do you guys know what
Mhm.
Spaced is?
With Simon Pegg?
Yes, exactly. So
Mhm.
you know Spaced. Awesome. See, this is why we're friends. I started watching Spaced, and then at the same time, I started watching another show called The Office, right? Not
The
the
OG
office that
Office.
not the office like that you have in
Ricky
America,
Gervais?
right? The Office in the UK.
Yes.
And so I'm watching these things and I'm thinking, and especially when I watch Space, and I go, man, I didn't know Edgar Wright at the time. I know him now, but like back then I didn't know him. I was like, oh, this guy made this space thing. I said, his mind is like mine. If I ever made something, this is exactly how I would do it. And my wife says, well, why don't you make something? And I was like, well, I don't know, man. I don't even know how to write a script. I don't even know, you know, that. She goes, well, I'll help you because my wife is very smart. She's good speller, good writer, all that. And so me and her sit down and we write. Basically, it's The Office in a church setting, right?
Right.
But like a guy who comes in, he's demonic, because it's got a little Joel flair to it. So a guy comes in, he's all demonic possessed, and this whole staff of that work at the church, they don't know what to do with this guy. And like all this craziness happens. And I paid, I got some friends together. We did it on a little handy cam. We did it in 12 hours. I paid them chicken. And that was the first thing I'd ever wrote or directed, right?
Mhm.
And we had a little, like, I guess a premiere where we just showed everyone. I remember the red carpet was like little square red napkins. And I walked on that. Yeah, that comes later. The Edgar Wright and Simon Pegg there. But like that was
Yeah,
my
Missy's a big fan of Last Night in Soho. So,
yeah.
and of
oh
course,
yeah,
Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz. Those are always big staples for us.
which none of those were even existed yet when I
You
met
met him,
Edgar.
yeah.
But like, so I made that little thing, and we had this little with just a bunch of friends, and my friends were like, "Hey," and this is kind of before YouTube, or they're like, "Hey, put it on a DVD so I can show my parents, or I can show my friend, or whatever." So I'm like, "Oh, okay." I honestly thought that would be the only thing I filmed, and that was the end of it. And I made some DVDs and I handed them out, and that was it. And I went about my life. And one day, my friend who acted in it, we're at this store in Mexico called Soriana, and someone comes up and asks for his autograph, and we're like, "Why do you want his autograph?" They're like, "Oh, I seen you in that church," and I'm like, "What? You saw that?" And we're freaking out. And then we realized it started to grow and grow and grow. And next thing I know, I got offered my first feature film, and I didn't even know what I was doing. The first day I walked on set, I had no clue what was going on. And that first movie is pretty rough, so don't go look it up. But that's kind of how, I broke through. And I remember in that first movie, I was I'd actually, this is back, remember MySpace?
Yes.
Yeah, a long time ago, right? So MySpace, I find Edgar and I'm like, oh, that's the guy who made Spaced, man. Like, I'm just gonna write him. So I wrote him and I said, hey, I live in Mexico, man. Just so you know, you got a fan in Mexico if you're ever in town. That's it. And I don't even think Shaun of the Dead out yet.
That was 2004 for Shaun of the Dead. It came out the same year as the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah, I think, okay, so I had seen Shaun of the Dead too. And I said, oh, that's the Space crew. That's like the people that made Space. Right. Yes. And now it's coming back to me. And so that was it. And then I remember, I forget what day of the shoot we were on my first feature film. And I was like ready to give up. I was so tired. If you've ever been on a film set and you're like 16, 18-hour days, I'm just like running on zero. And I remember I got to get up and I got to film this like car crash scene. And I'm so tired. And I had a computer and I checked face or MySpace or something. And Edgar had wrote me back.
Oh, wow.
And he said, hey, I'm actually in Mexico right now. And this is like months later, like, you know what I'm saying?
What a coincidence.
This is months later after I'd written that thing, but he had remembered this dude in Mexico. So he's like, hey man, I'll have Universal send a limo for you and you come to the premiere to Hot Fuzz.
Oh my goodness.
Because he was touring Hot Fuzz.
Nice.
And I said, man, dude, this is awesome. I said, but I have to film a car crash tonight. I said, there's no way. I said, if you're still in town, I'll jump on a plane and I'll head to Mexico City tomorrow morning, and so we can hang out. And I said, here's my number. If you're in town still, after that premiere, let me know. Well, I was filming that scene, and it's cool because if you get the DVD, which they're really, really rare, but on the behind the scenes, I'm getting ready to film that scene, and I get a call on my phone, and it's Edgar to wish me luck on that scene. You know what I mean? But just getting that email, that reply, that gave me all the energy I needed to finish that film, and to do it. And I was just like, holy smokes, this is awesome, Like,
yeah,
I mean, it's very
really
rare that you would ever reach out to your favorite director and that they would respond,
Yeah.
And so
I almost feel like MySpace was more personal. Like,
Well, it
It
was
was
at
back
first,
then, yeah.
and then, Facebook was kinda the same way, but both of them ended up just kinda unraveling towards the end.
Oh, yeah,
Agreed.
for sure. But, like, that yeah, it was pretty cool, and then eventually we would meet up in person, when Space actually, he invited my wife and I out too when Space was released on DVD in the United States for the very first time, which was a huge deal because all the clearance rights for the music that had to go through in the United States because the laws
Oh,
are
wow.
so different. So um, we went up to the Alamo Draft House. Back then, Harry Knowles, I don't know where he is nowadays because some stuff happened, but like back then, that was the place to be. And so, that picture that you showed is actually of the DVD release of Space,
Okay,
and we're all
so
out there, which is,
Edgar's on the left of you there?
Yes.
Very cool.
and then later he would, my wife and I, we got invited to the Scott Pilgrim premiere, which was great.
Yeah.
Um, out there. And yeah, so yeah. Then so it was really crazy. I got thrown into the music thing. I got thrown into the to the movie thing. And that phrase, fake it till you make it. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I live
exactly
that
my
every
story.
day.
So, like, obviously, Edgar has a little bit of influence on you, but what other directors, have influenced your work, since you've been doing it?
Oh man. Obviously, I mean, Kevin Smith was huge. I think I sent you a picture of Kevin Smith and I.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't have it with me, but yeah, I remember seeing you where took a picture with Kevin there.
and
When was that?
That was, what? He was doing a road show, and he bumped Beautiful Prison during the show. And,
Nice.
and I went on stage and stuff, and it was really, really cool. Um, but Kevin Smith, even before, so okay, let's go back to when Clerks comes out, right?
Oh yeah, 95, I
Because
think, 94.
I say like Spaced was, and Edgar was a huge part of it, but I remember, and this is back when doing drugs and everything. I remember I was going to work, I was really hungover, and on the news there was this lady talking about how this movie called Clerks had taken Sundance, and it was like, and he used a credit card, and I was just, and that was the first time in my life where I thought, wait, anyone can do this, you know what I mean, can make a movie that's literally, and I have it, it's so ingrained in my brain
Yep.
of that moment in time, and going, wait a minute, so he just got some friends together and did a movie,
Yep.
and I remember thinking that, like, wow, that's crazy. It's crazy he used his credit card to do it, but it's crazy, right? And that always stuck with me. It always stuck with me. And when I would see like friends and college and stuff, and they would mess around and do movies, I was always like fascinated, like, wow. And then
Yeah, I
and
think
then
it's kind of interesting that around that time because you had, of course, Clerks, and then also Rodriguez had done La Mariachi, and that turned into Desperado later on. But yeah, he did it on a short budget too. It was just really kind of interesting around that time how a lot of them were starting to do these independent films, but they were like on really low budgets and then being very successful. So it's pretty
yeah, and then
crazy.
like editing programs started to come out for people, and it was always fascinating to me. And I didn't know the Robert Rodriguez story at time. I just kind of knew the Clerk story. Um, and then, but it's funny because and I've never met Robert. I've never met
Oh
him,
wow.
but he definitely is an inspiration. But then there's, I'm trying to think. Of course, Quentin. That seems to be like a given answer for most filmmakers. But I
Yeah.
remember seeing Pulp Fiction in the theater. I didn't see
Yeah.
Reservoir Dogs. I saw Pulp Fiction and going, this is something special. Like you just
Mhm.
knew this is something that was amazing. And so but I'm trying to think of other filmmakers. Peter Jackson, I actually admire quite a bit. Um Dario Argento was a huge influence. Yeah.
Suspiria.
Yeah. And even Cronenberg, like The Fly,
Yep.
and Toby Hooper's Texas Chainsaw was ginormous for me. It still is probably number one as far as horror films for me, the original Texas. And so like all those things influenced me, which is funny, as I'm a Christian filmmaker kind of, like, but I make horror films and, but all those films, man, just, yeah, they inspired me, and the directors, and, I could talk about horror all day long,
Yeah.
every day,
I
Return of the
could
Living
probably
Dead,
just
baby.
I could
That's
probably just
right.
sit with
That's
you for like
right.
24 hours just talking all. And I've met so many people now. Like, we did a interview with Chris Alexander, who also is a big horror fan, director, and it's so cool when you get to chat with people about their love and how they grew up enjoying a lot of this stuff. Uh, obviously, you had recommended your movie Beautiful Prison when it came out, or at least years after the fact, and I checked it out, did a review on it, I really liked it a lot. I know you told me a little bit behind the scenes, like what the concept was and how you came up with it, but why don't you tell our viewers like what your thinking process was when you created that film?
Beautiful Prison actually was a birth on when I was touring and we were playing stadiums, and we had one show that was like in Tijuana, and then the next one was in Merida, which is, if you know Mexico, it's about a 35-hour trip. And for some reason, we couldn't all fly. Some of us had to go on a bus. And I was like,
Oh
holy
wow.
cow. And so I was
I know
I
all about bus
remember,
rides in Mexico.
yeah. And so I actually I put on, this is such a weird, I put on this um, uh, the soundtrack to Doom, one of the Doom games. And I was just listening to it. And I had always thought, so some of the viewers here, your viewers, might not know that I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia when I was 14 years old.
Wow.
And I spent time in a mental home, and I had to, and so, and something that God totally healed me of. And that's another reason why I'm like so sold out. Right. But I remember being in the hospital, and because there were times where I'd overdosed and I was in the hospital, and I'd always wonder, is anything I'm living real? And that was a lot of the schizophrenia, and that's where Beautiful Prison was kind of birthed out of that idea that I've always had of what if we're just sitting in some freaking bed right now, and everything you're hearing is just the conversations that people are having outside, it's like when you fall asleep with the TV on, right? Which is an actual line in Beautiful Prison.
Yeah.
And you're just painting these pictures in your mind, right? And so that's where Beautiful Prison was birthed. I never thought, I wrote it, never thinking one day I would get the financing to do it, or, find someone crazy enough to believe in me. And I went on another podcast. It's a pretty big podcast in the US called Movie Geeks United. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
I've heard of them. Yeah, I have heard of them.
And so he had saw Corazon de Campeón, which is my first movie. And he was like, how did this guy make this for $7,000? Had me on the show, and I started talking about it, which led to another thing, which led to the company Guerrilla Pictures in Michigan asking me if I had a script, another script. So I sent him Beautiful Prison, my friend Eric Mashila, and I didn't know if he was going to read it or not. And the next day he called me. He's like, hey man, I read your script. And I was like, you did?
Nice.
I was like, what'd you think? He goes, it's shit, but I see what you want to do here. He goes, let me help you. And we came together, we wrote it all out, and it became the movie that you saw. And and there's a lot of, I drew it from a lot of different inspirations there. It's I have a story that's kind of funny. So I was a big Sleepaway Camp fan, right?
Yep.
Big Sleepaway Camp fan. So I wanted Beautiful Prison to end with a girl named Angela, and it was a crazy ending that you would remember. And hopefully I did it right. DJ, what do you think?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, very much so.
So it's funny because, I don't know. I didn't know Felissa Rose back then. I didn't know I knew who she was, but I didn't know her at all.
Right.
But people knew from Q&As, and people who knew me knew that Beautiful Prison was, the ending was inspired by Sleepaway Camp. And one day here in Albuquerque, this is like during COVID, when I came out of the hospital and I was still on this breathing machine. And there was a huge, fire, enormous. It freaked me out, and it headed right to my house. And I'm
wow.
And so me and my wife were packing up our hard drives and just the stuff that we might need. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, and I answer it, and it's Felissa Rose, and she's on the other line, and half her head's blown off because she's in a makeup chair. She's getting prosthetics on. And she's like, "Hey, Joel." And I'm just like, this is crazy. What is going on? I immediately I recognize her. But the producer of the movie that I'm filming now, he was on her set. And so he had told her about, me getting away out of drugs, and had told her, his movie is this and that. And she was just so touched by that she wanted to talk to me in person. And it was kind of this crazy moment, because I was like, this is so cool. I really want to talk to you. But
there's something going on right now. I've got to get the hell out of here.
And so it was like, oh, wow, this is wild, But we did later hook up at a horror con here in Albuquerque, and we got to talk about stuff. And so,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it's just kind of weird. It's kind of crazy is how things turn out, right? You make a movie inspired by something, and then that person, ends up finding out,
Yeah.
You just never
know.
It's
kind of funny. I have I don't know if I ever told Neko. I talked to some other guys from, Samurai's Dojo Army, but in 1990, a friend of mine that I was living with, we were kind of directionless. I was about 20 and didn't really have a job or anything. I was just kind of sitting in my condo at the time. It was already paid off, so I didn't have to worry about that. But I started writing a story, and he asked me about it, and he's like, "Well, what are you doing?" I says, "I'm writing a story. I'd love for it to be a movie, but I don't know any connections, don't have any access to it. I'm not even a script writer, but I just had this idea." And he's like, "Well, what's it about?" And I said, "Well, basically, I'm a big werewolf guy, but I do like vampires and stuff like that too. So what I'm doing is I'm writing a story where you basically have three divisions of, you have your vampires, you have your werewolves, sort of like lycans, and then you have basically these other wolves that are more like your tribal, like
your
Indian, like wolfen,
wolf spirits.
Yes. So you have these different factions, and they're at war, and some are enslaved, some aren't. And so he said, "Well, what if I write from one point of view?" And I said, "Well, that's really kind of a cool idea. I'll let you take over the vampire aspect, and then we'll just kind of compare notes, and our characters will intertwine in that way." So it never stuck around. I ended up leaving Colorado at the time, moving out to here in Maryland, and then he was going on with his life. So I never really made of it. But lo and behold, it wasn't based off what I was writing, but the Underworld series played off, and I kind of feel bad that I never pursued it more. I'm kind of jealous that you were able to finally bring your stuff to light,
your story,
And so I'm like, if only I had the wisdom and everything else to actually do that, because the story we had was a bit different than Underworld, but it was still similar in theme. and it was just fun. But yeah, it's just a weird story I've had that I never really told many people about. But
well, you know, I got this theory that like I feel like God gives this one idea to a bunch of people at the same time, right? And then like who's gonna act on it, you know?
right.
And because there's been things that I'm like, oh, I come up with something, I'm like, oh, I should get back to that. I should get back to that. And then, you know, one day you're sitting in a theater and it's like this summer, and it's like your idea, and you're like, no, wait, no.
And you're like, I knew that.
Well, that's kind of like what usually happens. We laugh about it. I'm sure you've seen it, but where, you know, like movies like Armageddon come out, and then you have Deep Impact or similar in theme, or what was it, Volcano and something else.
Right.
Dante's Peak came out around the same time, so it's like there's some shared things going on out there like
right.
that.
Where well, a lot of that stuff is scripts get shopped around, and then they hear, oh, that one Armageddon got bought. Let's quick turnaround and do this. So you know, in that case, but you know, it's funny as couple, I would say about 2 years after Beautiful Prison came out, there's another movie that came out that has it's totally different in the all the way through, but the end is just like Beautiful Prison.
Oh wow.
And like, I never like I was never gonna like battle it or anything, because I do believe that some people get an idea all at the same time, and they took their path and I took my path, you know. And I'll always have the credit of it came out first. Mine did. And so I got that going for me. If they were like, wait, if they ever saw my movie and go, hey, this guy copied my idea. No, not necessarily, you know, like you know, so
is there any particular way that you brainstorm, like for movies or ideas? Like I know you were saying when we were speaking before about, you know, your music videos, you just really try to kind of go into your own space, listen to it, and kind of in the darkness, and kind of create a story. But you know, as you're writing new stories, what is your process for brainstorming?
Well, when it comes to like a horror film, a lot of the ideas in the beginning, well, they'll start in one of two ways: a crazy dream, where I'm like,
Perfect.
oh my gosh, that's so crazy and it makes no sense. Let me make sense of it. And I write it out as if it's like, okay, this, I guess, like, why was this, like, for example, and people are gonna think I'm crazy. The other night, I have a dream. I'm in this church, and I see this like kind of like deformed lady, and her back's kind of like split open, and she's got all these like crazy things attached to her, and she's carrying this suitcase, and it's and she's naked, and she's all totally deformed and grotesque, and she's carrying this man, I can't believe I'm about to say this live on podcast. Sorry, someone just Gordo, thanks for the sub. Someone just so like and then she takes this suitcase, and there's all this like a mob of like very religious folk there, you know, and they're, you know, you can tell they're off their rockers. And she opens up the suitcase, and she throws out, she empties it, and it's all these dead babies. And
oh wow.
And they all fall on the ground. This is like
Holy
2 nights ago.
This is like the craziest dream.
Now, Joel, just let you know that in the metal community, that's totally metal.
That's totally metal. Someone will make a band called Suitcase Full
Dead
of
babies falling out of suitcase.
Like,
yeah, that's a song.
So
someone
I'm still metal.
That's my name.
Yeah.
I'm still metal in a way, right? Now, and so like, but I'll go, okay, I'll take something like that, and I'll go, okay, what's the story of what got us here? Because I'm hiding, and I'm now, like in the dream, I'm almost like Bruce Willis, bro, and I'm going through like the air shafts.
Air shaft, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, I gotta get out of this crazy place. You know what I mean? Because these people are.
Come on, we'll have a few good drinks. We'll have a laugh.
Yeah. And so in my brain, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, well, you know, how did I get here? What's the story? And it'll start to formulate from there. The other method is starts with either Horror Hound, Fangoria, Rue Morgue. I'll be at Barnes and Noble, and I'll be flipping through those horror magazines, and I'll just see an image, and from that one image will spark an idea.
Yeah,
and I write it down, and then I'll take it from there. You know, I'm
that's
in
cool.
an interview. What do you need? Tell her I haven't eaten yet. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry
He
about
needs
that.
food, substance.
sustenance.
And and it'll just go from there. So like my new horror anthology on Electa, it's on IMDb now. I put it on Facebook the other day because I didn't know we were allowed to talk about it. But once it went on IMDb, I guess I was like, okay,
You're
I
like,
guess
it's official.
yeah. I
So
guess
what's it called?
On Electa, I believe. I didn't name it actually.
Oh, that on Electa.
Let me see. I mean, I could be wrong. Let me check my IMDb.
He's gotta check his own
I love
IMDb.
how he's like, I have to check my IMDb real fast.
Well, while you're looking that up, when it comes to your experiences on the set, have you generally had a pretty good interaction with your actors and actresses, or you ever have ever tension with them at all? Do you have to put them in line, like lay down the law, anything like that?
Well, I mean, a set is crazy. It is crazy. It gets crazy. So as a director, I usually find out all the craziness afterwards because most of the producers, my AD, they protect me so I can just do what I got to do. Right. So they protect me and I don't find out till later. And then I'm just like, what? That happened? Like it's always bananas.
You're like,
there have been times where, like, as far as an actor, they're just not getting it. They're not understanding it. I'm not seeing what they have in their head. They're not seeing what I have. And we might have some words, but for the most part, we've gotten through that. There was one instance I did an open casting, right? For in Mexico. And so I was like, hey, you want to get a chance to be in a movie? So all these people came out. And I'm not kidding you. Some people waited in line to audition 12 hours, right?
Wow.
Just to audition. And we saw hundreds and hundreds of people. And there's this huge line. And my wife was working the door, right? She was working the door, letting people come in. All of a sudden, and I'm not going to name names, but if there were any Mexican viewers here that heard about this story, they know exactly who it was. Famous lady, a girl, in her limo pulled up, basically almost running people over in line, pulls up, get out, and go right in front of the line. And they're like, we want to audition. And my wife's like, listen, you can't you almost hit these people. And then so it's a younger actress and her mother, right? Her mother is her agent.
Right.
And her mother goes off on my wife,
not
knowing you're screaming at the director's wife. You've already lost your chance.
That's it.
Yep. You just got axed at the door.
So my wife comes in and she tells me the story, like, so-and-so's here. And everyone's like ears and eyes like perk up. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's here.
Because they know who she is. Yeah.
And my wife tells me what happens. I was like, I don't even want to see her. And but my producer, he's from Argentina, and I don't know, maybe he was a fan. He's like, come on, let's let her audition, right? So I was like, all right, fine, bring her in. So we let her audition. And in the end, and she killed it. She did amazing. She did awesome. And she would have nailed the part. But I looked at her, I said, listen, I said, you're great, you're talented. I said, but that lady out there that you guys got lippy with, that's my wife, first of all. Second, you got to treat people differently. If your mother is your agent, and I'm saying this right in front of her mom, and I'm like, you need to get away from this because she's going to bring you down. Like you have, and I said, I'm not going to hire you because I just don't want no problems on my set, and I don't want that attitude on my set. And she left, and you know, there were tears and stuff, and probably something ugly in the press about me. But like, I would rather have someone who's really, really cool and not as talented than go for a prick or a diva that's really talented, causing all kinds of problems on set.
Exactly.
You know, and that's how I've always run things. So if I have any bad vibes about any actor, I'm not like, I don't care how good you were. I don't care how awesome the part was. Like, because my sets, a lot of people said, man, this is the funnest set I've ever been on. And I try to hire
the kind of reputation you want.
Yeah,
you know?
you want that kind of like synergy. Or I hate that word.
I love that word. That word's great.
I'm speaking in corporate, like, you know, we gotta merge the synergy. And
well, Neko and I wanted to know though, is this young lady as adorable in person as she is like on the set?
Oh, Anna Kendrick.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's as adorable as Anna Kendrick, right?
I love her.
So she's cool. Adorable. How'd you end up talking with her?
Oh, so that's at the Scott Pilgrim premiere.
Oh, okay, okay.
She's in Scott
That's right.
Pilgrim.
She's in the film. Yep.
And
I think she's so funny. God.
Yeah. You know, it's crazy. So oh gosh, I can't even tell you, because something happened huge to that girl and her mom, and
so the one that
and it's like, and it was just like, oh, thank goodness, because that could have been me, director.
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
The drama you were speaking of happened to somebody else.
I give away the name, but like, I'm just like, see, exactly why you don't get involved in that stuff.
My goodness.
Do you have any feelings on the writer strike? Like what was going on with all that in Hollywood and whatnot?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think everyone's going back to work on Monday. Finally,
managed to hash it out.
Yeah, well, I believe it's a temporary agreement for the next 6 months. I haven't seen it, but like, you know, I have mixed feelings, because I supported all the actors, all my friends, you know, and writers, and I'm a writer as well. But here's the problem with it is they had loopholes, right? Like A24 could still film. These other people could film. And it was just like, no. If you really want to make change, it's got to be all or nothing. Like,
like a united front.
Yeah. And so it's like, well, if you guys can't even, you know, unite like that, like, and I was still supportive. In fact, I even like, because a lot of my stuff's independent stuff, and I'll do non-SAG contracts and stuff like that. And I can still use SAG. It's crazy. I could still use SAG there were just some back doors I could have done too, and still have gotten away with SAG actors. And so, and I stopped. Yeah, I even stopped casting for shows that I was working on for a bit out of respect. But then I started seeing everyone working and doing things because there were these loopholes. And to me, I was just like, come on, guys. Like, so I was I'm a little bit like indifferent, or I don't know. It's weird how I feel about that. The other thing is, I get what the AI stuff, they're like scared about, you know, but here's the thing, like, we have to adapt. We have to evolve. Like, why are writers, like, why are they any different than the blue collared workers in the factories that were being replaced by machinery, you know, 50 years back? Everyone had to.
I agree.
Everyone had to adapt. Everyone had, you know what I mean? Like, this is going to happen whether they like it or not, you know? And like, so in that aspect, I was like, me as a director and me as a writer, I'm no better. Why am I better than the people that were fight? Why didn't we fight for them then, back then?
Right.
You know? Right. And so like, that's kind of my thoughts on it a little bit. It's kind of weird, and, you know, but you know, I am who I am. I've been making films outside the system forever, so it's like,
right, because you're kind of a little more in the independent circuit.
yeah, if
So
they hate me, they hate me. I don't, whatever.
I think one thing that I was reading about was a lot of the actors, especially people who were starring in movies and TV shows that kind of had a resurgence from streaming, that their concern is when, you know, they were doing the shows, they did not, you know, streaming didn't exist, so the type of royalties that they believe are due, they were trying to fight for, like, you know, now. And I didn't know if that's something that you have any input on.
Okay.
Oh, no.
We're putting him on the spot now. Like he's gonna sink his career.
I'll just give you like a quick, like, I do understand what they're saying, because, you know, when you do a show from the 80s or 90s and it's just over and it's just a short little thing, but now it's on Netflix, Hulu, Tubi, whatever, and it's streaming, and these shows, or these networks that have bought out these shows because they were inexpensive to purchase, and now they're getting royalties from, you know, advertising and, you know, membership fees. They're bringing in the money, but the actors are like, wait a minute, I'm not getting anything. So I get their point, but it's also like a very different business now than what it was before, kind of like music, where music is very different now versus what it was before.
Yes. And you know, I get it to an extent, right? Like I get it why, you know, why they want a little bit of cash there. But I look at it like this, man, you know what? If a movie from the 80s is being seen on streaming service, and I'm sitting there as a director and I go, oh my gosh, I love that actor, I have a part for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that's cool. And but what, you know, and I understand like the lower end actors who are like, oh, they'd be cool to get some rituals. I get residuals. I get that. But like when I see people, I'm not gonna mention his name, but somebody,
don't mention any names.
Somebody was out there going, hey, you know, this is streaming and I need this money. And they got paid, you know, millions and millions of dollars to do it back then. And it's like, bro, what are you crying about? You got paid all this money. That would be like me. I am in the architect business. I construct you a house. I build you a house. I say, you know, you paid me to build this house, right? The DJs have paid me to build them this beautiful house, and you live in it for 10 years, and then you go and sell it. And I go and I knock on your door and I'm like, hey, I heard you sold this home that you paid me to build.
Where's my residual?
Where's my bonus?
Can I get some of this cut? Like, do you understand how ridiculous that sounds when you put it that way?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point.
Like you got paid
a different business
to do that job, right?
Yeah.
And you did it. And you probably got some notoriety back then, and you got some, you know, you got some fame. Like, you know, so again, it's like I'm in balance because I get the whole streaming service and things have changed, you know, but it's like we got to adapt. We got to, you know what I'm saying? Like,
adapt. Exactly. Great word. You got to adapt to the change. Sometimes it's not always fair, but again, as you pointed out, some people who were very successful with those shows back in the day got paid very well to do them. So it's like if you blew through your money, that's your fault. Like that's
exactly like I'm sure like if they came up and told you and said, hey, do you want to star in this hit show? It's going to be amazing. But guess what? You only get paid today. Like, because later, you know, they would have still taken the deal. They would have still done it because it was a great opportunity. Now, I do think that, yes, now that this is in our forefront, now that there is streaming, okay, what can we do? So that the future things, right? It's
right. It's a great point because now you can say if you're doing a new show and let's say it's a Netflix series, you can write that in your contract that, okay, if this gets bought out by, say, NBC and they start running it, I want the residuals off of that. You're right. It's all about the future on now.
And in all honesty, there's a lot of companies, and especially in the independent realm, where you can come on as a producer, you can come on for points rather than, so you get more of the back end. You didn't work
Yeah.
out that deal. Don't cry about it now.
Right. Yeah, you weren't forward thinking back then, because you could have said, hey, yeah, anything that happens in the future, if this gets picked up by another network, I want some residuals.
I mean, it's like Lucas. He's like, okay, I don't need to make this much money, but I want control of the toys and all this and that. And he made a deal, and because
and it worked out.
Yeah, and he was thinking about the future, right?
Yep. So swinging back around to the gaming stuff, Media Glitch, how did that start?
So Media Glitch, just so people listening know, it's a video game review show, right? On YouTube. Now, it didn't start off that way. So when I moved to America from Mexico, I mean, I'm an American, a Mexican American. My mom's from Mexico, but I was born in America, but I'd been in Mexico so long. When I came back here to Albuquerque, I fell into a really crazy depression, almost like a culture shock. I didn't really want to be in America. I missed my friends. I missed my tacos. I missed, you know what I mean? Like
tacos. How old were
wanted,
you when you? How old were you at that time?
This was in 2011.
Oh, so okay.
Oh, so this is still pretty
you were
recent.
an adult, yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm just like at work, and I'm totally bummed out, and I'm depressed, and I just didn't. I was having a really bad day, and this guy came up to me. His name is Brian Lee, and he starts picking my brain stuff, and he's seen I was sad. He goes, "You know what'll cheer you up?" He's like, "Netflix." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "Oh, dude, you just put it in your PlayStation 3, and you can just watch movies right from your TV." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like coming from Mexico, I'm like, "This sounds absurd." He's like, "Or they'll send you all the things in the mail. You just pay a price. You got thousands upon thousands of movies, right?" It seems weird now,
we
right?
started Netflix in 2003 with the DVDs. We were like one of the OGs.
Right. And I don't remember any of that. Right. We didn't have that in Mexico. Right.
Right.
So I go home, and I said to my wife, I said, "Honey, supposedly there's this thing called Netflix. It's an app, and then you can watch whatever you want."
Sounds like the greatest thing.
Yeah. And so I looked it up, sure enough, because that app doesn't appear on my PlayStation 3 in Mexico, but it does when I connect to the States, right? And so,
wow.
So I see it, and all these movies appear, and I was just like, holy cow. And I played one, and it started to play, and I was just like, I love America. This is awesome. and so I started watching all these movies, and then I just wanted to talk about all these movies that were available. So we started a show called the IQ Review. That's how Media Glitch started. It was IQ Review, which was the instant queue that you made in Netflix.
That's right.
And I got my friend Brian Lee to do it. And then I had filmed this short horror film with Miss Santa Fe at the time. She was Miss Santa Fe.
That's cool.
And I ran her through the mud, 3 a.m, got her all wet and muddy. And she was such a good sport. I said, "Hey, would you want to be one of my co-hosts?" Because she was so much fun to work with. So we started this show, and like 2 people watched it. We were putting it on YouTube, and the same, just being beat up by the algorithm, and making these high quality episodes that no one was watching. And then my friend Brian, who was part of the show, he's like, "Hey man, I got to quit." He was my editor, and he's like, "I got to quit the show, man. No one watches it, and I want to do this and that." And he went on. He does what's that one guy who does all the documentaries? Ken
Burns.
Ken Burns. Is that what it is? Yeah. So he
Yeah,
works for him, right?
I thought it was.
He's his editor, right? So okay, cool. You went on and you did some cool things. So he quit, and then the next day after he quit, Comcast called me and they said, "Hey, we watch your show. We'd like to put it on TV."
Ooh.
And so we started doing that, and we were just reviewing tons of movies. And then I started throwing in little video game stuff, right?
Right.
Like pickup videos, like I'd go to garage sales and stuff. And then one day, Comcast had said, "Hey, do you think you can throw more of that video game stuff in?" And that's getting way more hits than your movie reviews. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So we said, let's just like media mix it, media, and we changed the name to Media Glitch, and it became comics, movies, and video games. And we started doing that. And Media Glitch has always had a bigger presence. Until COVID, it always
Right.
had a bigger presence on TV than it did in YouTube. Like if I go out, I'd go out, not so much anymore because we haven't been on TV in a while. But when I would go out, I would always get recognized. "Oh, you're the host of Media Glitch, man." I'm like, "Oh, do you watch the channel?" Like, "Well, I watch you on TV." I'm like, "Oh, people still
Oh,
watch
that's so
TV?" Like, it seems
cool.
weird to me, but
Right.
the majority of our viewers were on TV. And then finally, they wanted the video game stuff was just like always hitting. None of the
Like
movies or the
icing.
comic stuff was. And they asked if we could just go straight up video games. And then I guess that's when real Media Glitch was born up.
So,
The
as a
video review show.
collective, who does it consist of right now besides you?
Well, so that my stage manager Tommy, who so we went off air during COVID, right? Like just
Mhm.
like everything else got
Shut
shut
down, yeah.
down, and I had a pretty I had a pretty bad breakdown on live TV as well.
Oh, no.
So I probably would have been let go either way. I
Oh
just freaked
my.
out because no one was doing their job right. We had been there
Uh,
all week, and you can see little glimpse of it on YouTube. Some of it made it on YouTube. But we had been there all week. We'd come in Monday to film because it was live TV. And
right.
so and they weren't ready. We'd be there for 4 hours. They couldn't get the technical stuff out of the way. Come back tomorrow. Same thing happened. Next day,
Ah,
same thing happened. And I think by Thursday when we
That's
were on,
frustrating.
what's that?
Oh, I said that's frustrating.
Yeah, and then I think by Thursday is when I just lost it, and we happened to be on air, and they cut the feed on YouTube, but some of it made it on YouTube. Oh yeah, see, so they're already telling me, people that are watching, they're putting the sexy
yeah.
call up because that was the character I was doing when the freak
Oh
out
my
happened.
god.
And so, gosh, I forgot where I was going with this. What was the?
The freak out on TV, sexy skull.
Yeah, but
Well, it was during COVID, and like you said that I get did.
oh, you
So
were asking me
you
who's part of it.
yeah.
And so the plan is to go back to TV, and we actually can. But my stage manager and I we're filming that movie I was talking to you about.
Yeah.
The on Electa, right? Which is so that was birthed during COVID too, because I said to my stage manager, I said, well, how cool would it be to do a creep show, right? Type of movie, because I'm a huge fan of creep show. But
Yes.
we find all local directors here, and we give them all a budget of about $5,000, and everyone has to write it and film it, and then we'll put it together, right?
See what happens.
And so that's where it was birthed. And then later, he said, "Let's do it, but let's not bring in any directors. Why don't you just direct, half the shorts, and I'll direct half the shorts." And got the financing, and we're off and running. Right, he's doing the first short now, and
Oh, that's
so
really cool.
what's that?
What's the what I said that's really cool. I was gonna say, what's the release date for that?
It says out on Tubi, right?
Oh, it's
Or
on
something.
Tubi already?
Or
No. It's not out yet. We're just
Oh, it's
filming.
on his IMDb listed. It's not out yet, but it's
Yeah. So if you look at my name, you'll see upcoming director and Unelecta's there. And so that'll we're hoping to release that for Halloween of next year.
Oh, cool.
And so but it's in production now. And that's what we're
Very
filming
nice. That's awesome.
now. And so
You are busy.
that's so I got another feature that
Oh
I'm
my
doing.
goodness.
Sadly, I can't tell you much of anything.
Super top secret stuff.
But it's huge. It's really big. I can't say
And
Is
I'm
it?
really
Can
happy
I
for
ask you
you.
this? Is it like on? Is it like a mainstream scale?
Wide
Like
release.
really mainstream?
Well, yeah. Well, I actually put up. This is why, because I did do this on Instagram. I
Oh,
did put a
no.
picture of me and Danielle Harris
Yes, I love her,
from
dude.
Halloween.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. Dude, what is she like? Because I was probably about 19 or 20 when I saw Halloween 4, and I
Yeah.
remember she was a young girl in that, but I always followed her career throughout the years, and like I literally love her as an actress. Just
Yeah.
saw her in another movie recently, which was really cool. So I'm glad she's staying busy.
Yeah. So I just put a little teaser up, me and her, and I said, what am I doing here with Danielle Harris? You'll find out
Getting
soon.
coffee.
That's all.
Awesome.
That's all I said, and that's all I can say. But
I'm really happy. Good for you.
and then okay, so going back to your question.
It's
It's
okay.
still Tommy, it's still Miranda. I have the stream team, which we stream on Saturday nights. So that's CAG, Radical Reggie, John from Intrigue Gaming, and
yeah.
myself.
I think
And we bring
Radical
in
kind of shows up on Samurai's feed
Yeah,
sometimes.
he's
yeah,
pretty
you've
big
seen
in
Radical
the
Reggie on
YouTube
Fat
streamers.
Samurai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's so I always had the stream team and I have a studio team, which they're all ready. We still hang out. We're still friends when we do go back to TV, if time permits, because I did just this is all news. This is probably breaking news in my stream that people that are watching too.
Ooh, breaking news
Is,
whenever it feels like breaking.
Here it is. Is I am now in, we're all started the work of me directing my first video game. And so
Nice.
That's
is
exciting.
so I just got back from Chicago, where we had our first little powwow to talk about it. I can't say much yet. I mean, I could technically, but I just don't want to yet. I want to keep it.
Gotta let it breathe.
Neko, this is our real life Gray Bush from Grandma's Boy.
I know,
right?
Well, he's
finally
beyond the gray
this.
bush. He's like, I don't know. He's like the
king of all media.
Yeah, no.
So they're asking me in the chat, wait, what? Is it a fighting game? Someone says, is it My Little Pony? No.
Yes, it's My Little Pony.
My Little Brony.
It's the new Barbie video game. And
Yeah.
I'm perfectly fine with that because I love Barbies even at 43. So
I will, let me say this.
Oh, yes, it is. It is. Look, he's not denying it. It is.
No.
He's going to be a billionaire. You guys hear this? He's not denying it. And Margot Robbie is going to do the voice, and Ryan Gosling is going to be there too to do the voice again.
Yeah, right. I wish.
She just had to work that shit in there.
That's awesome. No, I wouldn't be opposed to filming or directing a Barbie game, honestly. If every one of those names that you just mentioned was attached.
Yeah.
But I will say to Omega Sonic Man in the chat that yes, it is a fighting game. That's all I'll say. And
very cool.
It's gonna be exciting, and it's gonna be the next 5 years of my life, maybe more. I don't know. I've never ventured down this realm. I have no clue what I'm getting into.
Let me ask you this though.
Uh-oh.
So you're making it, but are you like, is the concept just yours? Are you doing the coding for it? Like, what all
No, I
are you?
can't do none of that. I don't want to
He's on the
announce.
creative side.
I don't want to announce the team thus yet.
Okay, that's fine.
But people way smarter than me are gonna do all that. But it is gonna be a very cinematic.
Okay.
It's gonna be
So we're
different.
getting a cinematic fighting game.
Well, a lot of games are
Hmm.
starting to kind of go that way now. Like, it doesn't matter if it's RPGs or fighting games. Like, they're starting to get more creative with this. Like, I've been playing Diablo 4. I know people hate it a lot. I have my problems with it, but there's some really cool stuff in the campaign and all that, which is very cinematic. So it's not
Right
something new.
now, so here's the thing about those. So those are cinematic, right? Built in Unreal Engine, where ours will be cinematic.
Oh, so we're talking like,
Like
do you
actual
remember? Because
shots
you're about as
filmed.
old as I am. The days of Dungeon and Dragon, when you'd go in there, it was actually kind of like a movie
Dragon
built
Lair.
into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dragon's Lair.
Yep. Dragon Slayer. Yep.
Yeah, and like I mean, FMV movies were big back in the day, like Sewer Shark and some
Oh
Sega CD
God.
stuff, you know. And so you got to wonder, well, whatever happened to that stuff? I'm
Yeah.
saying too much, man. I have to.
I've said too much. No, it's good.
All
We're
right,
not
well,
we're not going
let's
to push you on
let's
that.
change the subject.
Well, actually, I do
See,
have to ask him. As far because you do like to play games, you know, on your off time, because I've seen you on Twitch and stuff. What games are you playing right now? Have you had a chance to play MK1 at all?
oh yeah, played a lot of MK1. I mean, I even put on Instagram the day it came out. We did a 12-hour nonstop run of MK1, and
Wow.
that went on for the next day and the next day as well. Playing a
Oh
lot of
my goodness.
I love Texas Chainsaw Massacre, has been a great game
Oh wow.
that we've been playing. I'm loving that. And yeah, you know, that's been it at the moment, just because, you know, of time and
What
I
was
did.
that? What was that game you were playing? Was it Monster Hunter or something? Because that was kind of cool. I don't remember what
Yeah,
it was.
I love
Monster
Monster
Hunter. Yeah.
Hunter. I love Monster Hunter. Sadly, like I think did I send you my TV show, the intro?
No.
No.
I never sent you the intro to a TV show.
No.
Um, yeah, I can't say nothing, but like what I can, if you happen to see it somehow, okay.
Yeah.
But you know, that just finished, so I've been working on that finishing, because it went into like a whole legal dispute for 2 years
Oh
after I
wow.
finished it, and
No
so
kidding.
just recently was able to screen it to producers, and so that's something I've been really busy finishing
I
that,
bet.
you
Yeah.
know. So, but yeah, it's a busy time. So I wish I could sit around and play a ton of games. I you know, slaps and beans. Uh,
Nah.
I played that the other day. That comes from a line of Italian film movies that no one in America knows about, and they made a beat 'em up video game,
Oh
um,
wow.
which is pretty cool. Um, so I mean, there's a lot of amazing games out there, you know, and a lot of things to play. So I mean, I can't even imagine if I was growing up today as a kid
Oh yeah. No.
in the video game world, you know, because it'd just be so overwhelming, you know.
Yep.
I don't think I would ever, you know what? I don't think I would have been able to develop the talents I have, you know, if video games were so prominent and so readily
The way they are
available
now.
that they
Yeah.
are
You'd be
now.
spending all your time just playing. Wouldn't even care about creating. You just play.
And that's a balance I'm trying to find with my kids, you know, because it's like I let them play games, but I'm like, all right, shut it off. It's time to play piano. It's time to play guitar. It's time to
Yeah.
draw. It's time to, you know, because all those things, you know, even my music stuff I use now if I have to score something, you know, in my videos and stuff like that. I know that I'm able to, if for some reason, like, for example, in Beautiful Prison, there were a couple pieces, the guy who did the score for Beautiful Prison, I just didn't think it felt right. So I just composed something and put it in there
Cool.
because I can, So it's good to have all these little creative talents to draw
Outlets.
from.
Yeah.
That's what I want my kids to do,
Definitely. That's a good influence to have on them too, because you do have like a lot of different talents that you can use. So it's cool.
Like my kid's 15, and I watched her the other day in front of a stage, and there's like thousands of people there, and I was like, I couldn't have done that when I was 15. That's crazy.
Right.
But I've kind of showed her, like, you can do anything with Christ. You can do anything, and you can, and so like they're learning this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, trying to be the best.
Exactly. I was going to say you're giving a really good example leading your children. I mean, just showing how hard that you work and how creative you can be. You can still be creative and have, meaningful work. And I know a lot of times now, school and just life in general doesn't really want to drive people to have a creative career, but you're proving everyone wrong that you can have a creative career and still be successful and still, raise a successful family. I mean, that's the goal, right? You want to pass on what you know and love to your children.
Yeah. And, and I've had the opportunities. I remember when Beautiful Prison had done the festival circuit, and I was offered a two picture deal, have to move here and do all this and that. And I was like, and I like easily, I was like, no, I don't think so. And you should have seen their faces. It's like, wait, what are you talking? You're hot now. You gotta do it now. You'll never work again. And I was like, okay, I don't, I don't find my identity in what I do. My identity is in Christ. So it's like, I don't care if I need to raise these kids, man. There's enough kids out there that are being raised by TVs and being raised without their parents. I'm not going to be that. I'm not going to, sacrifice them so I can have a career. Like, how selfish is that? And I stepped away from film for years, and it did seem like to the outside world, oh, he should have, acted when he could, when people were talking about his movie. And I kid you not, I think I just made music videos and stuff for the church and stuff for like 6 years, and I was totally happy, totally content. And I just felt like one day I was like, you know what, maybe I should get back into doing film again. I talked to my wife. She's like, yeah, the kids are older. I think that works out. And that, like, within 1 week, I got a short into a festival, and that weekend I got offered a job, a film, and and I'm off and running again. It's like, come on.
Yeah. I think the trials that you went through as a younger person, that kind of helped you now to where you don't want your kids to have to kind of go through that, and hopefully they never do. Like, hopefully now everything's good and that you can take your lessons that you learned and apply that to them. So I really applaud you for that, because it is a tough decision, man. Like, you make a movie and then all of a sudden someone comes throwing money at you and say, hey man, we can make you a star. And it's like, it's tough. Like, you have to make that hard decision, but I think you made the right one. That's not many people will do that, and that's tough.
I mean,
and to me, it wasn't hard at that moment,
Right.
Like I could create an Academy Award winning, tear-jerking movie that everyone loves, and it would still dull in comparison to what I've created in just one of my kids.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And
so 100%. Yes. It's the people you love are the most important. Like, I have a very sick mother, and I had to, she's battling leukemia right now, and it's been going on for 3 years. But when it first happened, like, I literally put my career on hold. I was sailing. I came home, took care of her for about 9 months. And after she was in remission, I went back to sailing. And in like April of this year, found out that she relapsed. So quit sailing again, back into another job. And she like literally just rang the bell today from her bone marrow transplant and she's coming home. So like to me, I was doing so well in my career, kind of like unparalleled to like what a lot of people would have expected me to do, because I kind of like did something that not a lot of women do. And
Right.
I was like, my mom's more important. Like my
Exactly.
mom and I are like thick as thieves, and I wanted to make sure she had the best life and care that she could, and I didn't want to be too far away from her. When I was away traveling, I'd be gone 3-4 months, and in Southeast Asia, which is difficult to get home quickly. So I'm like, no, it's just not happening anymore. I don't know. She's in her 60s, so like I don't know how much time she has left. And you know what? I had a good run. I was really glad to have that time in my life that I got
Mhm.
to be the person I was when I was doing that, but I couldn't like handle if anything happened and I was so far away to any of my people. I would just be distraught, and knowing that my mom is vulnerable, I won't be that far away anymore.
100%. Like it, it's crazy because most people in the world would think the opposite. They would think, oh man, I had to give up this for this. And we're talking about your mother. We're talking about the one who gave you life. We're talking about, the person that took care of you to get you to where you are. And now you can go, you know what? So I had to put my career on hold, but I got to be with her. I got, I have no regrets, because
No, I
in the
don't.
end, we all get old and we all die, right?
Yep.
And so it's like
Yep.
how you lived your life and how you treated people during that time. That's what's going to be important, not your career, not what you did. You know what I'm saying? Like when you think about someone, it's huge, and no, hardly anyone gets to a status of Elvis, right? And like,
Right.
and that now
He was
a
so
movie
known.
comes out, and 99% of the people, the young people, they're like, "What's Elvis? Who's that?" They have no clue.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like all that. What's important is the people that you love and how they remembered you. You know?
Mhm. I agree. And my mom feels guilty, and I'm like, why do you feel guilty? I'm like, think about all the crap I put you through when I was a kid, or all night, you're up all night and I'm whining and you have to get up and go to work the next day, like as a baby. And she's like, oh, but it's different. You have your life now. And I'm like, you're part of my life. So
Yep.
every day.
And we're not trying to end this on
Yeah, we're
like a
not going to do
sad
something
note,
happy,
but
something happier. Like one more
I just
happy.
want to say that, Joel, we do wish you the best, and I hope you have all the success in
Absolutely.
the world with your endeavors. Thank you so much for taking the time out to talk with us tonight.
Oh,
Much appreciated, man. I appreciate it a lot.
no, thanks for having me, and thanks for listening to me and let me my crazy rants at times,
No, I loved it. We're very proud of you and all of your
And
accomplishments.
I'll definitely be reviewing your stuff when it gets released. I don't know what it is yet, but yeah, we know.
We know. I'm gonna start looking up some like angry Mexican woman
Well,
and
now
her
I'll
child.
just bother Joel for the next
Angry
3 months.
Mexican
Like,
woman and
okay,
her
send it
child.
over. What is it? What is it?
yeah, and yeah, I there's a lot of stuff I make all the time that no one sees. People see it, but it's not like mainstream. It's not,
Mhm.
Yeah.
it's a lot of stuff I'm very, very proud of, for um it's for the church that I'm associated with and stuff like
I've
that.
seen some of that. You've posted some of it.
Mhm.
And it's winning awards and stuff too,
That's good.
but like I think we talked about this before we started. I don't promote myself very well, but I just chill, man. I just chill. Let's just chill and have a good
Yep.
time and
Exactly.
not stress out about it. Like I don't want
I
to be
think
the guy
maybe
chasing
that's
my
the
career,
key, right? Just enjoy what you have and just kind of, soak it in.
That's
Yeah,
really
because if
what it
you
comes
can't
down to. Your
enjoy what
career.
you have right now, right? Like even
Yeah.
if you and then you get famous or whatever,
you're not going to enjoy what you have after that. You know,
Ever.
if you
Life-
can't,
Oh my
life
God,
goes fast,
that's like
man.
so poignant. Like if you just won't ever enjoy it. Like you'll always be trying to chase something.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%. But thanks
All
for
right,
having
well,
me.
Joel,
Appreciate
sure.
Thank you.
Hold on real quick. I'm just going to let everyone else go. Thank you for watching
And
tonight.
thanks for streaming us. Bye guys. Hi.
Be sure to hit the like button for us, subscribe to
There's
us if you
my-
like our
there's my
content, and
wave.
please go subscribe to Media Glitch and any projects this good man has. He needs all the support, and we will push to have that done. So thank you very much for that. See y'all later. We will talk to you next time.
See ya. Bye bye.
Just before you die.